Andera raises $37 million Series A for audit automation. Lightspeed's money lets Andera wire its rules engine directly into the ERP instances that still run manual sampling today. Mid-market audit teams lose their main pricing lever inside 18 months. The remaining question is whether the Big Four buy the capability outright or watch their compliance margins erode quarter after quarter as finance departments route the work in-house instead. Katalyst Space Technologies closes $12 million Series A. Robotic servicing changes satellite replacement cycles from fixed 7-year windows to on-demand upgrades. Operators that once signed sole source refresh contracts with primes now have a credible alternative for the first time. Geodesic's bet implies the data collected during each docking will become the next scarce input. Competitors will have to either share their telemetry or lose bids on multi-year service fleets. 5 million units already in the field means the discrete optics vendors face a sudden volume cliff. When the next process shrink lands, power per 400 gig port falls enough that legacy pluggables no longer clear the thermal budget inside the same rack. Hyperscalers will rebid those links in the next hardware refresh rather than extend the old designs. Apple, Intel announce U.S. chip manufacturing deal. The capacity reservation Apple secured covers modem and sensor production, not just CPUs. TSMC must now accelerate its own U.S. ramp or risk ceding the non-leading edge orders that were meant to keep its Arizona fab full. Intel gains the volume it needs to justify further process investment without waiting for foundry customers to commit first. Conduct raises $60 million Series A for SAPSO $60 million for Salaka Saturis Endly. Good luck to the Kiora Getty 4, so the Conduct integrators that priced custom mapping work lose those deals the moment Conduct's templates reach general availability. The next S/4HANA wave will route through standardized connectors, squeezing the services margins that used to fund those firms' bench. Gate Space lands $6.3 million for space propulsion. Military procurement cycles reward flight heritage above all else. European Britain Hund under $1 billion for tech sovereignty. National programs like this often deliver slower deployment than advertised. The structure prioritizes established corporates over pure startups in practice, according to people who have navigated prior rounds under the same umbrella. German and Dutch counterpart funds will now accelerate matching commitments to prevent their best companies from relocating headquarters for access. The second-order effect shows up in term sheets where founders gain leverage on governance clauses that previously favored foreign investors by the time 2027 vintages close. Fundstreet Tech closes $45.5 million corporate note. Investment-grade notes at this scale typically signal that rating agencies see stable cash flows from the underlying loan book. Banks serving the same segment now confront a lower-cost benchmark when competing for originations. Expect tighter spreads on conventional small business facilities within 4 quarters as the platform's improved terms become visible in the market and get modeled into credit committee presentations. The margin squeeze hits regional lenders first, particularly those without automated underwriting stacks of their own. A shame. And Andera's contraction shall attend $24 million seed for custom chips. Custom silicon design timelines have stayed stubbornly long despite years of EDA investment. That new tools target the layout and verification bottlenecks that still require teams of 50-plus engineers on average. Synopsys and Cadence must now decide whether to embed comparable automation in their suites or watch tape-out velocity shift towards startups that adopt the upstart platform first. Design win rates will reveal the impact inside 18 months for the first production controls across its global network of label and packaging providers. Existing customers should prepare for tighter inventory financing windows by the next contract renewal cycle. The second-order pressure appears in margin expectations rather than headline growth metrics reported to litigate and platform. Discovery teams at AmLaw 100 firms now have a concrete benchmark to beat. Automated file management that pulls precedents across jurisdictions will force manual review budgets lower within 4 quarters. Mid-tier practices adopting first stand to capture work from larger competitors. The integration work with current case systems will determine how fast that shift happens. Watch the renewal rates once the first set of cases closes with measurable time savings. This gives time to show results before larger vendors respond. Andera expands with Lightspeed backing. Support teams inside large compliance buyers just gained a new expectation for response times. Scaling customer success teams ahead of chasing new logos means support costs per account will rise unless automation offsets the headcount. This expansion forces slower incumbents to match service levels or lose ground on renewals. Enterprise buyers gain leverage when vendors compete on deployment speed for regulated workflows. The next 12 months will show whether added headcount translates to faster cycles or just higher burn. Katalyst advances robotic spacecraft platform. Operators gain the option to extend asset life through in-orbit upgrades instead of scheduling replacements every 5 years. Multiple orbital regimes mean the platform must prove reliability across conditions that ground tests cannot fully replicate. This forces launch providers to adjust their manifest planning when upgrade missions start competing for slots. The second-order effect appears in insurance rates once servicing history builds a track record. Expect the first contracts to show if servicing economics beat new satellite builds. Photonic IC milestone boosts data center hardware. 5 million photonic ICs shipped means interconnect power per rack drops enough to alter power purchase agreements at scale. Hyperscalers locked into older designs now face rising relative costs as competitors migrate. The volume milestone pressures suppliers still on electrical signaling to accelerate their own roadmaps. Enterprise data center operators will see their quotes change once the efficiency delta hits production SLAs. This shifts the competitive set for anyone quoting new builds in the next cycle. U.S. domestic chip production gains momentum. The Apple-Intel arrangement locks capacity that leaves foundries abroad with reduced pricing power over the next 2 cycles. TSMC must now accelerate its domestic fab timelines or accept smaller order volumes from other U.S. customers going forward. The Federal CHIPS Act incentives start to reshape where advanced packaging investments land as a result. Equipment suppliers see firmer commitments once multiple deals follow this same pattern. Watch allocation priority shift toward U.S. sites in the next round of capacity planning. Conduct targets enterprise legacy system escape. Data ownership decides who keeps the revenue after these projects end. European enterprises testing the beta already report 40% faster audit cycles. Conduct can now sell the mappings as an ongoing control point instead of a completed handoff. That shifts the economics toward recurring access fees. SAP will have to decide whether to block third-party schema tools in its next release or accept lower maintenance attach rates from the mid-market segment that adopts first. Gatespace targets military satellite applications. Beacon reliability under jamming matters more than thrust numbers for military bids. The round buys qualification testing cycles that commercial investors usually skip. This lets Gate qualify its systems for European defense programs that currently default to US suppliers. Procriat may be transhiddle to Promida, despite a flood even a mode, from other turn of mem pledgeorge. Hut hanot sure Karen Bunda, less impedes them. The qua indecision cluck total district near shorerid Kalusta. Watch delayed thrickly 19 Hordic euro recrowned Browen code, default debtor risk below what regional banks currently reserve against. With $1.5 billion already deployed, the default data gives it pricing power banks cannot match. Fundstreet can now scale originations without another equity round. Banks that used to dominate small business lending must either integrate the platform through white label deals or accept thinner spreads as volume migrates to automated underwriting. Regional lenders face a choice between partnership and margin erosion within 18 months. Architect Labs democratizes chip design. Custom silicon stays expensive because the design toolchain and foundry interfaces stay closed to outsiders. The seed targets open PDKs that let smaller teams reach tape-out without a large firm's EDA stack. Founders outside the Big Five now have a credible path to first silicon on their own terms. TSMC will need to expand its shuttle program eligibility or risk losing the next wave of specialized edge chips to Samsung-backed alternatives that move faster on open flows.